Okay, welcome back to Seed Money. Today we are talking about how to build successful partnerships as the number one growth driver for any business. We have Kyle Kane here, who is an accomplished content creator, executive producer, TEDx speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur. He has recently launched a new company called Spark, and we're going to get into that. He's crafted like all kinds of campaigns for some of the world's premier artists and brands like Katy Perry, Kylie Jenner, Samsung, resulting in market value of over $2 billion in sales. So he has made an impact. So excited to have you here. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing great. Yeah, thank you for having me. And the company's called OnSpark, not just Spark.
OnSpark. Oh man, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll put that down in the show notes and let's kick it off. So you were just in Santa Barbara, you've got a crazy background and you're just embarked on a whole new journey with this. But tell us about just kind of your background and what started OnSpark, because this is a really cool thing you
Yeah.
guys are offering.
Yeah, happy to share. I'll try to compress like 30 years into 30 seconds or so. So I cut my teeth in the music industry. I was a recording artist with Universal. I opened up for Shakira in 28 cities, and I was robbed and held at gunpoint with a gun in my mouth overnight. Did a couple TED Talks about that. But long story short, it came back and performing in third world countries was not an interesting thing for me anymore with all the PTSD I was working through. So I became an A&R at Universal, and I worked my way up to VP of A&R. And so my primary responsibility was to craft the taste and tone of artists and brands. And very quickly, we saw that brands were fueling the cost of most of the creative content. A lot of the artists that I really believed in, they didn't really get any marketing budget until a brand stepped in and said, "Hey, I want to partner with you." So I really understood the value of partnerships. And over the years, that has just compounded because today, I mean, cold outreach is ignored and paid ads don't convert. And in an increasingly fake world, it's becoming more and more difficult to build trust. Partnerships become the primary growth driver because, you leverage other people's audiences. That's the way that you can cut through the digital jungle without having a war chest of capital to drop all the meta ads. So yeah, partnerships are the way to go. We've driven over 2 billion in partnership value, and OnSpark is an AI-powered partnership engine that helps connect founders, creators, and investors to the right partners, so that they're not pouring into the wrong opportunities and they're really finding vetted, aligned, high-intent partners to drive business together.
Wow, that's amazing. First off, I'm sure we could swap some stories on almost dying in third world countries. I have a handful of those myself.
So,
I think you and I spoke previously. Like I came from a world, working with Burton snowboards and Gravis footwear and Diesel, where it was all about partnerships. And
right.
I think a lot of times startups, they start off and they're doing all these traditional marketing tactics like you're talking about, Facebook ads and all this stuff. But really what they don't realize is a lot of these global brands really did start off by partnerships. They didn't have Facebook ads. They didn't have the money to spend on big campaigns when they first started either. And so I totally agree with you. I think it's still relevant. The tough part is finding quality partnerships. So talk to us a little bit about OnSpark, because that is the hard part. And I found this also going from big global brands where it was easy to get partnerships when you're Burton Snowboards. But when
Yeah.
you're your own little startup and it's just you and you're reaching out to these bigger influencers or brands to try to collaborate with, it can be a lot tougher. And you put all your eggs in one basket and it's not the right fit. You can waste a lot of time and money. So I'm really curious, like how OnSpark helps kind of narrow that, gap for whoever is the, whether it's a content creator or a brand or whoever.
Yeah, we spent 2 years figuring that out and reverse
Wow.
engineering what made partnerships successful, what made them fail. And yeah, we can dig into that a little bit. I just read a review, a Harvard Business Review published an article that said that partnerships accelerate revenue, build credibility, and expand market reach faster than any other strategy. The challenge is sometimes partnerships mean so many things to so many different people. What it meant to you at Burton probably means something different to a startup founder or to an enterprise organization or to a creator that's looking for brand partnerships versus an affiliate sales model. So, whether you're seeking audiences or distribution platforms or new clients for acquisition or brand collaborations or investment groups, thought leadership opportunities, the days of building in isolation are over. The market moves too fast in this world of AI and technology that starting from zero is just no longer a viable strategy. We can accomplish more together than either of us can do alone. But as you mentioned, partnerships are difficult sometimes. I mean, pouring into the wrong people, a lot of folks have been let down, and most entrepreneurs take meetings that lead nowhere. They chase introductions that never materialize, or they invest in collaborations that drain time and deliver nothing. So, lost time, misalignment, lost momentum. But here's the truth. I mean, 100% of life's challenges can be solved with the right partnerships, the right person, the right deal, the right alignment at the right time. So we took all that information and we plugged it into a multi-layer assessment stack. And so when you come into OnSpark as a subscriber, you take a 3 to 5 minute intake call, and every single partner does this. This is what helps us to surface some of those red flags early on, and also helps us to understand what kind of partnerships really could move the needle. So the multi-layer assessment stack on one side is based in traditional personality assessments like HBDI and Myers-Briggs, DISC, and Enneagram. But on the other side, we take it a step deeper and we look for behavior markers. We look for linguistic patterns and communication preferences and execution risk to try to surface those red flags earlier. It's interesting, and not to get too deep into the psychology, but there's two childhood wounds that, if not healed in a partner, could surface in the worst possible time in a partnership. One is lack of self-worth. And we see this a lot, especially in early stage founders, where they just don't feel like what me as a startup sporting goods company, like what can I offer Burton? Or me as a micro influencer with only 300 people who follow me, what can I offer a big company like Burton? And the truth is a lot, right? But people don't believe that inherently. So the platform helps you to understand and uncover your value. It gives you this mirror and this megaphone, right? So you can really understand what you bring, and then how to communicate that properly to a potential partner. The second childhood wound that comes in, it's probably no surprise, is a lack of trust. And, whether you feel like you get your short end of the stick every time you're in a partnership, or maybe you're on your third divorce and you're just like, man, I just don't want to partner with another human right now. Right? Whatever that is, oftentimes that doesn't surface until the 11th hour. Like, deal memo is drafted, drafts are in the works, and then all of a sudden the partner goes. And you're left there like, man, this was perfectly aligned on paper. Why are we not doing this? Why did you ghost me? So, the idea is to try to surface those things early on to help people through these challenges, but also to match people that are in similar stages, that there's a mutual value, because ultimately that's what a successful partnership is all about.
That's amazing. Yeah, I could definitely see both of those things inhibiting partnerships. I think it is really easy when you're the little guy or girl, in the market, to pick your head up and see what your value could be to a bigger company or a strategic partner. So that's a huge benefit that you offer right there to be able to do. So you said, so you work with brands, content creators, like who's your, ideal platform user, and then how does it work?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, the partnerships, it's such a broad term. So we've got 17 different ICPs. So that can mean, an early stage startup founder with nothing to offer. It could mean a mid-level or enterprise company that partnerships are already a part of their growth strategy. It can be a micro or nano influencer or a mega influencer. It can be an investor looking for deal flow, or a government, NPO, nonprofit, or impact organization. We serve them all. The difference is that kind of the nuances around how we identify the right partners and how we match them. So the intake is really what does a great job of understanding what types of partnerships can move the needle, who's your ideal partner at this stage based on the goals that you're looking to achieve. If you're looking for distribution or audience or stages to speak on or client acquisition, those are different types of partnerships that require slightly different strategies. And having driven 2 billion in partnership revenue for Fortune 100 companies to, thousands of startups around the world, it really becomes this systematized process where now, powered by AI, we can do it so much easier. And there's 4 stages of the partnership life cycle that we try to determine where 4 stages are: discover, verify, launch, and amplify. So when you subscribe to the platform, you'll be mapped into one of these 4 stages. If you have a clear offer and you know who you're targeting, you're going to be through discover and into verify, where we're looking for trust assets and social proof to vet you before we introduce you to partners. And that could be testimonials or case studies, or anything that we can show to a potential partner, like, here's the collateral, here's why this makes sense. If you've got those things, then you're in launch, where you're ready for your minimum viable partnership, and we're building out a target list of partners, and we're outreaching and understanding how that mutual value exchange can work, drafting deal points, and pushing those partnerships through revenue. And if you're a company that already has partnerships as a primary growth driver, then you're probably in the amplify phase, where you're reinvesting in the partners that are working, you're killing the partners that aren't working, and you're building this living, breathing partnership machine through our AI powered engine that is OnSpark.
You just brought up such a good point. Killing the partnerships that are not working.
Yeah.
I think, as humans, we can feel guilty doing that because it's a partnership, right? And we feel like, oh, well, it's working well enough. And sometimes it's like you just got to cut those losses.
Right.
So how do you define a successful partnership? Like, what, is an element of being mutually beneficial? Is it just like, this halo effect of it's not always tangible? Like, what are the things that you use to define like successful partnerships?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's about that mutual value exchange. And it looks different for different people in different stages of their entrepreneurial journey, you know. So audience growth, media partners, and speaking gigs can be different from affiliate sales or creator networks, different from technology partners or staffing needs or investor groups or data and content. You know, all these different types of partnerships have different KPIs that move the needle. So, you know, the purpose of having that one conversation with our AI agent inside of OnSpark is that we're able to identify what a successful partnership looks like to you because it is a customized solution for each individual person and each individual company. And those things change, right? You know, day one, you have a new product, you may be looking for product market fit. Day two, you might be looking to drive customer acquisition. Day three, you might be looking for podcasts like yours to share with the world the proof of concept that and then you may be looking for investors to scale your company. And then you may be looking for talent to hire to help support your operations, right? So those are the five different stages of partnerships and totally different strategies that will accomplish those goals. So yeah, it looks different for every different person. And that's why it took so much time for us to build this and so much
Yeah.
data we had to ingest in the platform to make sure that we could meet the needs of our subscriber, no matter what stage of the journey they're in.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I could see, for example, I've had this one, it's more of an agency partnership kind of thing for about a year. And it's, every month for probably the past 4 months, I'm sitting there going, is this worth it? Oh, I'll just let it go another month. Oh, I'll just let it go another month. So even just having a little bit of like AI assistance to go, okay, this has been going on for a year and it's not really like paying off, probably time to cut it. That could be so useful.
Right. And I think it starts in the beginning with the building trust through verification first, right? Like getting the
Mhm.
verified profiles, getting the trust scores, the reviews, getting the deal history in place. You know, a lot of people don't have access to that data or those tools, or even if they do, they might not know how to operationalize it the right way. So, you know, we want to understand that, you know, this partnership can be risky. And at least as a founder, you're going in knowing like, hey, I'm setting my expectations because every partnership looks great on paper. Otherwise, you wouldn't enter in it, right?
Mhm.
And then the second component is that matching. So with predictive analytics, we can replace the paid ads and algorithm games and the cold outreach and only connect and only pour into those partners that are vetted, opportunities that are likely to succeed. And then lastly, the guaranteeing of the results, right? Our system can continue to service the partnership needs until you hit X ROI. We try to push that within 90 days. And the goals of my team and I is to get our time to first value for subscribers down to even less than that. You know, we want to be able to have a subscriber on board and be able to deliver a comprehensive partnership strategy in a day and close the first partnership in a week and have revenue in that first 90-day cycle.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Going back a minute to, kind of what you've seen as be like successful partnerships. And I think it comes across a little more naturally if you're a brand looking for partnerships, but maybe that's just the world I'm coming from. But for this audience who, they're mostly startup, early stage founders who are looking for investors. What would you suggest? Like, what would be a good strategy for them? And one of the biggest questions I get is how do I meet investors, right? It's finding the right investors because if you're pitching the wrong people, it's crickets most of the time. It's crickets half the time, even when it is the right people. But any suggestions or strategies from this partnership standpoint that you would recommend that kind of early stage entrepreneur look at?
Yeah, absolutely. And this one hits close to home for me. I mean, you know, started enough businesses. I've been a fractional CMO for 60 brands and four publicly traded companies, and most of them started from zero. And that 0 to 1 stage is really where we you know we really have to embrace the ebb and flow of the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And the one thing that I've realized, and especially in a lot of the founders that we support, is like, you know, we work so hard to get the company to the point where We can explain very succinctly what we do, what we offer. We can share and hold the vision. And we finally land that meeting with an investor that could actually move the needle for us. And it's like, after burning the candle at both ends and building companies on your own, like, what do you have left for that investor conversation? And then even when you get the capital, like, do you have enough in the tank to do what you promised? So I think it starts with number one, us being very clear about who we are meeting. And I think, we're very buttoned up about these investor meetings, and we almost go into it like it's a job interview, we're like, we're there on our best behavior. And I think we really need to turn the tables on that. As the startup founder, we're the ones doing the interviewing, right? We're the ones that have the sauce. We have the product. And so really understanding, like, ask the questions of the investor, turn the tables and say, well, how many investments have you made over the past X number of months? And what's the average ticket size? And what's the average return? And what can I expect? It's not just the capital, right? We want strategic investors. What else can you offer? Because we can get money anywhere, right? We can find a high net worth individual, private equity, family, multifamily offices. I could take out business loans. Like, there's a ton of ways we can get money. It's not just money we need. Like, we want to know what your energy and your resources, what support can you offer beyond that, right? So those are some of the questions that I like to ask. I want to know how many investments you've made in the last 12 months. What was the average investment size? How long does it take from when you say yes to when I receive the money in our company bank account? Those are the questions that you shouldn't be scared to ask. If the alignment is right with the investor, there's some early stage interest. It doesn't take a 50 slide investment deck to get to the next level. All it takes is some high level matching, understanding that this investor is willing, ready, and able to cut the check. And I think there's a lot of window shopping going on out there. For investors that have maybe synergistic companies in their portfolio, sometimes they like to meet early stage founders just to pick your brain, just to get the ideas and understand what your tech stack is and how you're building your company. And then they extract that and they go and tell their other founders or their other investments about it. And so I don't play those games. I like to make sure that this investor is ripe for the opportunity before a founder ever pours into that conversation. And then once the conversation happens and you've got that first date and you feel like there's some synergy and the questions to the answers are right, then go into a deal memo and just map out, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is what the relationship could look like. Don't leave anything ambiguous. Put it on paper, put it in an email. And again, it doesn't have to be a 50-page document. It could just be a couple bullet points in an email. The investor can write back, make some tweaks, or say, yeah, this is aligned. Let's move to the next phase. Next phase is where you need to be prepared with the deal room, some sort of diligence. It could be a Google Drive or Dropbox folder or a zip file, something where you've got your deck, your information, your bio, your any financials if you have them, bullet points on the product or service that you're offering. And once that deal room is unlocked with an NDA, because you want to protect your ideas, at that point you've gotten further than most founders ever get with an investor, and the rest is magic. So having a deal room or a data room where very quickly an investor or the investment team can go in there and have an idea of what you're offering, having a clear term sheet, any financials you have, bio, background, anything that helps reduce or mitigate their perception of the risk of the investment. That would be the next step after that deal memo is signed. And I would always gate that deal room or that data room. I would gate that behind an NDA to make sure that you have at least something on paper that says, hey, this person, this company accessed this information at this time. Because the intellectual property that a founder brings to the table, especially at an early stage before you have significant revenue, that intellectual property is your product. That is your baby. And you wouldn't let a stranger babysit your baby. So you want to make sure that you've got some documentation, some paperwork, and some research before you let them in.
Yeah, great point. It's interesting. I was thinking through that is one aspect I think that even if you're at the zero stage or just starting out, whether it's with an investor or with a partnership, the more buttoned up you are, you can seem, more on top of it and bigger than you are, right? So even from a partnership standpoint, if you're reaching out to bigger partners or trying to collaborate with bigger people, if you come across as professional and buttoned up, that can go so much farther. And same with investors, right? You have the data room ready, you have all this stuff ready, you're asking the right questions. Do you see that with, partnerships from your just kind of career experience?
We do. And it's a gift and a curse because just like you said, you can be buttoned up, you can appear buttoned up, but actually not have your stuff together.
Oh,
And so,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes
so the
sense.
other side of that coin is, the false expectations that, you seem very presentable and professional, but when we look under the hood, it doesn't match up. So that's
Uh,
some of the things that our platform at OnSpark, we try to get through that. But as long as a founder, as long as you're clearly defining what makes you valuable and unique, and you're presenting your assets, professional, ready for collaboration, and you can articulate your offer with conviction and precision, you're gonna get to the next stage. And the next stage oftentimes is not necessarily just about your great product or service. Your company can have a tremendous amount of value, but there might be some political influences. There might be some competitive influences that it might not fit the return profile of the investor. So I would just want to share that an early stage founder should not be discouraged. Don't go and completely change your business model just because the investor says no, because there are so many factors. Do is have your stuff together, vet the investor before you decide to pour into it. Make sure you have the interview questions and they check all the boxes before you let them in the door. And then you give them some visits and some first dates and you play that way. But if it doesn't work out, there's always another fish in the pond.
Yeah, love that perspective. Okay, tell us a little bit about your journey in launching OnSpark, because it sounds like it's been a cool process. You've had some big partnerships, and yeah, so tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's a great story, and it's proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, well, it started with a community that we built called the Deal Room. We got 17,000 people to engage in our CRM around partnerships and deal structures, and we understood the value of what we were building there. But until I met a man named Dan Martell, I didn't understand that what I was building was not scalable. It was relying mostly on my time, my personal network and relationships. And, it was only a matter of time before I was burnt out. So I had never built a technology product before. As I mentioned, my background is in entertainment and relationship building and network science. And so, I didn't really know how to do it. But Dan and his team at Martell Ventures showed me that, hey, there is a way that we can take what you're doing and leverage AI to build an AI powered partnership platform that can do what you do, but at scale and help way more founders and way more entrepreneurs accomplish their goals. So we created the proof of concept and we pitched it to our audience. And luckily enough, we had people believe in what we were building. We hit some pain points, the point where they said, hey, this is worth paying up front. And people actually prepaid for the product. And then we used that money for the development of the product. So we didn't actually have to dilute the cap table by raising any institutional capital. So we used the pre-sales to build the product and we went into a beta phase and we got some early subscribers on board and we worked out some features that were most valuable to them. And it was a process that I was not familiar with. So it was a little bit daunting for me, but luckily through the support of our community, we got through that. We built a strong team around partnership fulfillment. And at this point now, we've got close to 8 million partners available on our platform to match with. So it's been a very quick journey. I mean, October, we built the company. In November, we did the pitch. In December and January, we tested the product. And then we just launched last week in February.
Amazing. So, okay, just to back up for a minute, because I think this is the story that, so many people who are kind of caught in that early where they feel like they're spinning their wheels, which we all go through, right? It's like spinning wheels, breakthrough, spinning wheels, breakthrough. So you had this idea based on your whole career experience of like basically matching a matchmaking kind of offer for people because it's hard to find the right partners. And then you were leveraging it basically just from a kind of person to person standpoint. And then you partnered with Dan Martell in a sense to bring in the AI element of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And it wasn't just about the matching piece because, sourcing the right relationships, I think is only a part of the challenge. The challenge is how do you take a relationship and turn it into predictable revenue? So I think, like, hey, we get along, these two people, right? But how does that become business? Like, how does that become a for my business? How does it move my business goals forward? I think that's where a lot of the folks in my network were failing. So the matching helps because being able to vet high intent folks and put them together for the right reasons is the first step. But then creating a system and a structure around developing that partnership, launching that partnership, measuring its success, that becomes really the journey that's, I think, the most critical.
Wow. Yeah. Checking all the boxes, not just the tip of the
Yeah.
iceberg with like
Yeah,
getting
that
it.
four-step phase of that, discover, verify, launch, and amplify. That process has been a game changer for dozens of subscribers this month alone. One of our subscribers, Chris Seidman, joined the deal room in December. And in his first 30 days, he landed $160,000 in partnership revenue that he normally would not have had. Right. And that's more than a lot of founders would make their first year in business. And he did that in 30 days in December.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. Incredible. Yeah, and I'm a huge Dan Martell fan, as I told you previously. His book Buy Back Your Time was such a good book. Everybody should read that. It's like was a
He's a
game
legend,
changer.
right? I won't say this lightly, but the way Dan approaches not only business but relationships, life. I mean, I just admire that guy so much, and I really, I hate to say it, but I underestimated his influence. When I first partnered with him, I said, okay, great. Here's a guy that can help mentor me at this stage in my entrepreneur. He's got three technology software exits, and I thought it was going to be more of like a coaching relationship. I didn't realize that when this guy says, "Hey, Kyle's the best in the world at partnerships," people listen and they jumped at the opportunity to work with me. And so, yeah, it was just such a powerful experience to work with Dan. He's built such a strong team at Martell Ventures. Everyone there has this shared mission and values and guiding principles. I'm lucky if one person out of 100 I meet has that kind of heart. And every single person at Martell Ventures has that heart. So it's just really impressive, the quality of people in such a concentration, this little town in Canada. They're all just congregating there. It's really cool.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's another thing for, even if you're at the early stage, now granted, you've had a very impressive career, and background, but even for people who aren't coming from that, level of a background, not being afraid, there's so many quote unquote potential investors who are publicly putting themselves out there. They have their own venture funds. They have they're doing angel investments. And if you can find somebody that aligns with what you're doing, don't hesitate to reach out. You just never know where those things could go or where they could lead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and shows like Shark Tank are not, I think there's some delusion that like you have to give up a large percentage of your company in order to Bristol like that. I mean, there's capital everywhere.
Mhm.
And I think just, having revving your engines and preparing for an investor meeting that you think is going to go great and it doesn't. And then the next one doesn't, and then the next one doesn't. That just weighs on us, right? Because we put our heart and soul into these companies, and then it feels like we're bearing our soul when we're pitching it in the beginning stages, and then it doesn't work out. And so we get discouraged. And that's the killer, right? I mean, I'm sure there's 100 quotes about, you only fail when you give up. And the
Yeah.
fact that there's so many creative ways to finance, I mean, OnSpark is a great example of that, right? Like we didn't bring a venture capital in, we didn't bring private equity or family office. I didn't go out to high net worth individuals and sell off shares of my company. We just found people that had a pain point. We crafted a solution for that pain point and said, hey guys, if we build this, would you pay for it? And they said, yeah. So we built it and they paid for it. And here we are. It's simple.
And that's like the best test too, because that's what you need anyway to be sustainable. So if people aren't willing to pay for it, it's like you really should have that.
I mean, you shouldn't build it until you know that you're actually solving a real problem that
Yeah.
so many people live in.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Let's talk about AI for a minute because it is just crazy. I mean, I feel like every week I am becoming more and more dependent on AI, incorporating it more and more. I mean, I literally can't even imagine where I'm going to be 12 months from now because it's moving on a weekly basis for me personally in my businesses, much more integrated it's becoming is just, I just am almost in shock because I'm just adopting it faster than I ever realized I would and using it in ways I didn't realize. And it's just happening. So I don't know. What's your perspective? Because you've I'm not in that space at all. I'm just on the user side of it. But
Yeah.
having dove into using it for your platform, give us your perspective on, AI and business and just what your
Yeah,
thoughts are.
I see both sides. I mean, if you're not incorporating AI into your business and into your life right now, you will be a dinosaur very
Yeah,
quickly, right?
I
So
agree.
that's a fact. But there's also this apprehension. I mean, I was lucky enough to give the keynote for Amazon at CES in January, and I got to see what was happening in AI and robotics. I mean, seeing how many robot girlfriends there are out there, I'm like, okay, this is the end of procreation. Like it was
Yeah.
unbelievable. But when I think about what AI is doing, I would say about 90 days ago, I was using AI to prepare for a podcast, and I'll never do that again because, I like to think that I'm good at thinking on my feet and witty and sarcastic, and all that disappeared when I started to leverage AI as the crutch for my own thinking.
Mm.
And I thought like, okay, I'm a fairly self-aware individual. Like, what if people aren't aware at how much they're using AI to leverage their thinking? And what is that doing long term for the way that we operate, the way that we think through problems? So, critical thinking is becoming a skill that is undervalued as we move forward into the AGI world. So yes, AI is an absolute necessary for your business and for your personal life. But I think there's a time and a place to use AI beneficially, but there's also a potential of us kind of devaluing the critical thinking of the human experience in the same vein. So yeah, I see both sides of it. There's no way, shape, or form that AI, it's happening and we have to get on board. And there are so many different platforms and ways that you can use AI today. But I would just argue that, you want to make sure that you stay in the driver's seat. AI is a great tool and a supplement to thinking. It can help you brainstorm and ideate, and it can help you automate almost every task in your business, but it's your business.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think there's a trust element there too that I don't fully trust, so it's like there's so many small tasks that can be outsourced, but even
yeah.
some of the things that are like installed on your computer too, I'm not there yet. I just don't trust like, my
Yeah.
browsers have access to my bank accounts and stuff like that. And it's like, ugh,
Right.
I don't know. So there's an element of trust there, and from a critical thinking standpoint, how can it make good decisions without, understanding exactly who I am and where I'm coming from and all that, but I think
Yeah.
it is interesting, as the mom of a 9-year-old teaching the importance of critical thinking, it's like, "Oh my god, that's." I don't know, it's what are we supposed to teach them that will matter, 10, 15 years from now? And I think
Prompt
the important.
engineer.
What'd you say?
Prompt engineer.
Yeah, exactly, right? I know. Fascinating. Yeah, that's very cool. So, yeah, what would you say what are the goals for OnSpark right now from, like, an entrepreneur perspective and just business perspective? Like, what's up ahead?
So we want to get this product in the hands of as many people as possible. So we've got a wait list of about 1,700 folks right now, and we are bringing people off of the wait list in batches so that we can make sure that each subscriber has a wonderful journey and a wonderful experience with the product. Because ultimately, the success that our early subscribers have with the product, that becomes our product-led growth, and that becomes the primary source of our marketing. So yeah, the goal is I'm going to keep doing those speaking engagements. I've got another one coming up here at South by Southwest, and then we'll get into our NASDAQ events, and then we're going to do OnSpark launch events this fall. So, between the speaking engagements, between helping each of our founders personally, we're doing one-on-one strategy sessions for all of our early subscribers to make sure that their partnership strategies are in place. We're really holding their hand through the process to make sure they know how to use the software and understand the power of it, how they can unleash that in their business. So yeah, that's the goal. Just making sure that each subscriber has a partnership win and making sure that we can touch as many people as possible that can really use the benefits of partnerships in their business.
That's great. What are your thoughts on, because this actually happened to me with Shark Tank, is, I had a physical product. You start off, you're meeting with accounts, you're getting POs, it's a struggle, right? And then all of a sudden you get this partnership. Mark Cuban, Shark Tank airs, and everyone's calling you and you can't keep up. And then it's an issue of staying focused. And I wish somebody shook me at that time and said, stay focused, stay focused. Cause no, I had to try to do everything. And granted, there were sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You just never know. But what are your thoughts on from that early stage, like staying focused and the power of that? Or is it like, no, get these big partnerships and just, go for it? I don't know. What's your kind of philosophy there?
Yeah, that's something that I struggle with every day, and I was the person that tried to do everything all at once. And I got to give the shout out again to Dan, who's really just relentless about staying laser focused and do one thing super well before you move on to the next thing. As a multi hyphenate serial entrepreneur, I found that challenging, and having the pedigree of fractional CMO of 60 brands at once, I've always had the experience of like, okay, sprinkle a little here, sprinkle a little there, sprinkle a little there. But that is not the way. That is not the way forward. And so I agree that staying focused becomes the number one force of nature that will differentiate a successful entrepreneur. And that's a great use of AI, right? I mean, when your phone and your inbox is ringing off the hook and your DMs are off the chain, like being able to create an algorithm that will ingest all the opportunities. You can train it to stack rank them based on your priorities, what's really going to move the needle. You can score each lead based on the opportunity that it fits in your particular stage of development. And then you can backlog the rest of the opportunities and circle back to them once you've done this one thing really well. And for
Mhm.
us, getting that one thing right is getting the product in market. The next thing I'm focused on is subscriber support. And then the next thing I'm focused on is shrinking that time to value. And
Mm.
so being laser focused on one goal each month has been the difference between me getting this product out now versus me getting it out next year when the product may not even be relevant anymore because the market has moved so quickly.
Wow. Yeah, that reminds me of that book, The One Thing, I think, and I live by that philosophy too. Like, what is the one thing I should be focused on? Like, yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of to-dos, that stack up, but staying focused on that one thing that is important and aligns with the big picture goal. It's so easy to get distracted. So, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
great advice. Very cool. Okay, so if somebody is listening right now and they want to go to OnSpark, you said you have a wait list. What does that process look like? Cost, or how does the fee structure work, or all of that good stuff?
Yeah, so they go to onspark.com and they will answer one or two frictionless questions, and then they will be added to our list. And then someone from our team will send them a note saying, hey, your time is up. You get to come onto the platform. You will fill out an intake call, which will take 2 to 5 minutes. And then your intake call will be analyzed. You'll have your partnership score. And then we'll start to match you with other subscribers on our platform. And then your partnership strategy will unfold from there, and we'll set up a call, an onboarding call, so that we can walk you through that whole process to make sure that no one feels like they're lost in the sauce there. So the process is really seamless, and we continue to evolve it to make sure that it's as frictionless as possible.
Love it. Very cool. So go sign up, get on the wait list if you're looking for partnerships. I think that one partnership also that can change the whole tune of your deck or your investor pitch, right? If you have one really great strategic partner, that can provide so much validation, so much more validation for your company and what you're doing. Like you kind of said with Dan Martell, that person, can hold weight and that can get investors to lean in more. So I think if you're struggling, and you're not getting the traction that you want, maybe looking at a really strategic partnership in some way, shape, or form to add validation and kind of give you a little bit more just meat around your business to make investors, pay attention and want to lean in, I think can be really critical. Last question for you. So you've worked with some huge names. I think that a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, everyone's wondering like what are they doing different to get to that level, right? To get to that multi-million billion dollar level. What have you seen? Any common threads that you've seen across like the big brands that you've worked with or the big influencers who've been so successful that they've done from just a you know, any standpoint that is helpful for the early stage person to hear?
Yeah, I've got a few things for this. So, first and foremost, I think that what a lot of early stage founders do is they lose focus on themselves and their health. And all of the entrepreneurs that I've witnessed go from zero to hero never lost focus of that. There were times, sure, they had to stay up till 2 a.m. writing emails and answering investor questions, but the structure around putting yourself first is always going to be the long term value. So I think that's important. And I wanted to just kind of open up with that. Some of the other things that I've noticed is that successful entrepreneurs focus on distribution before the product, right? Like most entrepreneurs, they obsess over building something great, right? But successful entrepreneurs obsess over ensuring people see and trust and adopt it. They ask, who already has my audience? What pain points are they experiencing? How do I access existing trust instead of building from zero? So that's why partnerships and audiences and distribution channels consistently outperform the product features as drivers of growth, because product quality will get you retention, but distribution gets you survival. It gets you in the door. It gets you from that 0 to 1. Number two, I think is I see them engineering leverage instead of like the training time for output, right? And we do this a lot as workers and even as parents, right? Like we're trading time. Like, okay, this is an hour I could spend with my child, or this is an hour I'm going to trade for $250 of consulting. And so average entrepreneurs are scaling effort, but exceptional entrepreneurs are trading leverage and they're scaling assets. They build things that work without them. And that's like software and media and systems and teams and capital structures, where every decision is filtered through one question. Will this work if I'm not here? Can I step away and this will still work? And if the answer is no, then it's not scalable, right? And that's what Dan and his team showed me about what I was doing. It has to be scalable for it to be long-term successful. And then if I could, think about one or two more things, I would say, there's a lot of talk around like luck. And I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs build their own luck. They build environments where luck becomes inevitable. They increase the surface area for opportunity, right? Like they're in high signal rooms, they're publishing content consistently, they're creating deal flow instead of waiting for it. They're doing the hunting instead of the fishing, and surrounding themselves with people who are ambitious. That way luck becomes a byproduct of their proximity to other successful people. So I think those are some of the things that I see very often, is like making fewer decisions, but higher impact ones, and designing those systems for predictable outcomes instead of just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Incredible advice right there. That was gold. Very cool. Anything else you want to share? This is just your wealth of knowledge. I'm so excited for what you're doing because I totally believe in partnerships. I've seen the magic of it working with big brands and for myself. Yeah. Anything else?
I would just, I would leave the audience with this, and this is something that I wish that I heard early on in my entrepreneurial journey, is that success is not about being smarter or working harder. I mean, in today's day and age, your 9-year-old has access to just as much information as we do, right? Like it's not about your education. It's not about how many hours you put in. It's about positioning yourself in a way that effort produces disproportional results from the effort, designing the environment so outcomes are natural. So partnership centric operators outperform everyone because they're multiplying their capability. So, I wish that someone told me it's not about how smart you are and it's not about how hard you work. Wish I knew that early on, because I probably could have, I was shaving years off my life by burning the candle at both ends and evolving my education as far as I could, instead of focusing on building the right partnerships, meeting the right people, getting the right leverage, and being able to break down operating systems that produce results with or without my effort. So that's what I'd like to leave the audience with.
Love that. Yeah. And I think that's another thing I love about Dan Martell. A lot of his content, he will talk about the education system. And I think it's like just not be literally, but, ingrained in us that you got to be the smartest. And
Yeah.
even, 20 years ago, I always heard it's the A students are working for the C students. And I think that's totally true most of the time, especially as AI develops more and more and more. Medical school is not going to be as relevant, right? Like a lot of these things. And so, yeah, it really isn't brains. I think action for me personally, like just being willing to take action, not
Yeah.
care, not have fear of judgment, like those couple things also can just go so far, you know what I mean? And so I love that you brought that up because I always say like I blew the GREs. I had to take them 3 times. I had to go beg the admissions office. Like I swear that's not reflective of like how I am. Like I'm a horrible test taker. And so
Very
definitely
good.
not the smartest in the room, but always willing to take action, try new things. And, I think positioning yourself and who you're in the room with, and it makes a huge difference. So great advice. Amazing. Well, thank you, Kyle. We'll put OnSpark in the show notes down below. And so appreciate you taking the time today. This was so much fun. I'm excited to check it out, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Jayla. Thanks for the opportunity to contribute some value to your audience, and look forward to our next chat.
Love it. Thank you.
Bye.